Big picture thinking is made of four abilities. You have the ability to learn from everything. You have the ability to listen beneath the surface. You have the ability to look beyond the immediate moment. And then you have the ability to live in alignment with where you're going and not the current moment. So these four abilities are what make people successful really in whatever they set their minds to do, whether that is in business, relationships, leadership, parenting, their faith, and personal growth. So let's look at each one um, individually. The first one is learn continually. Success requires a growing mind. So we must learn continually. Scripture says in the book of Proverbs 1 and 5, let the wise hear and increase in learning. Big picture thinkers treat life like a teacher. They don't just go through experiences, they grow through them. So they don't just go through experiences, they grow through their experiences. And this causes them to be successful because the person who keeps learning keeps improving. And you're going to begin to realize that you don't have to prove anything to anybody. As long as you are improving in the things that you are setting yourself out to improve in, then the proof is going to be in your improvements. So don't set out to prove a point, set out to improve yourself. And by way of just the very nature of improving yourself, you're going to people will be able to see the fruit, and that's the proof. And so I want you to look at it like this. You make a mistake at work, small picture thinking says, I messed up, I'm a failure. How did I do this? How did I get this wrong? But big picture thinking says, what did this teach me about preparation, about communication, about timing? That shift turns seemingly failure into fuel, because success follows people who stay teachable. So you don't even have to necessarily be taught or learn from an individual, or quote unquote teacher, but experiences, situations can also become um, teachers. Moving on to number two, which is listen intentionally. Success requires accurate understanding. Success requires accurate understanding. James 1 and 19 says, be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. And this means that big picture thinkers listen for meaning and not just words. You want to listen for meaning and not just words. They listen to people, to patterns, to their own emotions, and to God. And this causes them to be successful because you can't make wise decisions with incomplete information. So you want to make sure that you have complete information. Intentional listening gives you clarity, and clarity gives you power. The opposite of clarity will be confusion. And we know that God is not the author of confusion. And so clarity is going to give you power. Let's say your child says, I don't, you see your child upset, and you ask your child what's wrong, and they say, I don't want to talk about it. Small picture thinking hears defiance, but big picture thinking hears fear, overwhelm, and or confusion. And so that understanding can begin to change how you relate to your child, how you respond, and how effective you become with them. And success follows people who understand what's really happening. Hear me now. Success follows people who understand what's really happening. So you want to get all the details. Have you ever been around people who gossip? and they have all the tea. They have all the details. And we should approach our personal development that way, whether it's about with information um, about our finances, about our business, about our relationships. We should approach life with that gossiping spirit that some people have, with all the details. And I want us to look at this story in the Bible with King Solomon. Two women came to King Solomon. They lived in the same home, and they had babies at the same time. But this particular night, a baby died. One of their babies died. And so these two women came to King Solomon with this dispute because they both were claiming that the child that was alive was theirs. And so there was no witnesses and no physical evidence, just two conflicting voices. On the surface, both women were saying the same thing, right? The child is mine. And so if Solomon would have listened to them, just plain listen to them without digging deeper for full clarity, he would have had a 50-50 chance at getting it wrong. But Solomon did something. Solomon posed he suggested that they cut the living child in two. That way, each lady, each mother could get half of the child. He wasn't doing this to be cruel. He was creating a scenario to hear their true hearts. And so the lady whose child it was, she refused to cut the child. But the lady who the child didn't belong to, the child that died didn't belong to, she was okay with cutting the the child into two because she just wanted to win the argument. And so Solomon was able to get a full understanding and get some wisdom and clarity on the matter by introducing that particular scenario. And so that's all about listening intentionally. He listened to the lady say, "Okay, let's cut the baby in two. Okay, you're not the mother." And then you got this one say, "No, she can have it." Okay, you're the mother, because who would want to harm their child. Moving to number 3, look expansively, because success requires seeing more than the moment. Success requires seeing more than the moment. Scripture says in 2 Corinthians 4 and 18, we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are unseen. Big picture thinkers have this ability to zoom out. They refuse to let a moment become the whole story. And this creates success for them because when you can see options, you make better choices. So you're able to zoom out, and if you're able to zoom out, you're able to see your choices. When you can see patterns, you avoid repeated mistakes. Zooming out allows you to see patterns of success, patterns of failure, whatever types of patterns, and by which you can avoid repeating mistakes. When you see possibilities, you can stay motivated. So you want to search out possibilities. You want to zoom out. As long as you keep yourself confined to a particular way of thinking, or to a particular environment, and you don't zoom out, then you're always going to be limited in your possibilities. And so you're an example of this is you're facing a financial setback. Small picture thinking says this is the end, but big picture thinking says this is a chapter, not the whole book. What can I adjust? What can I learn? What can I build from here? So starting right where you are and building, not staying where you are and staying stuck there forever. Take what you are, do what you can do with what you have, and build from there. The key word being build. Big picture thinking says this is a chapter, not the whole book. What can I adjust? What can I learn? What can I build from here? And this is really the story of Joseph in Genesis 45, 4 through 8. After being sold into slavery and wrongfully imprisoned for years, Joseph finally stood before his brothers, because they betrayed him. Small picture thinking, he would have said, "My brothers ruined my life, and I am a victim of their cruelty." But big picture thinking is what he had. Joseph told them, "It was not you who sent me here, but God, to save lives by great deliverance." Joseph refused to let the prison chapter be his whole story. He looked expansively at his life and saw that his setbacks were actually set ups for a much larger purpose, because success follows people who can see beyond right now. And even looking at that and reading that about Joseph, we can see that that's the same story similar to Nelson Mandela. He was in prison and he got out and he began to run his nation. Number 4 is live completely. Success requires showing up whole. Success requires showing up whole, so you want to live completely. John 10 and 10 says, "I came that they may have life and have it more abundantly." Big picture thinkers don't live halfway. They don't shrink. They don't disconnect from their values. They don't let fear make their decisions. And this creates success for them because success requires consistency, presence, and alignment. You can't build a big life with a divided self. I'm going to repeat that. You cannot build a big life with a divided self. Let's say you're offered an opportunity that scares you. Small picture thinking says, "I'm not ready." But big picture thinking says, "This aligns with who I am becoming. So I'm stepping into it." So you might not, sometimes opportunities approach and you have not became that person that typically would be in that particular role or be able to take full advantage of the opportunity. But with big picture thinking, you're able to take full advantage of the opportunity because you understand that you have the ability to become. You are a human being, therefore, you have the ability to become. And when you become, you can do. And when you do, you can have. Success follows people who live fully and not fearfully. God has not given us the spirit of fear. We understand this, but of love, of patience, and of a sound mind. And this is going to allow you to take advantage of opportunities. In the book of Numbers, in the book of Numbers 13 through 14, we see 12 spies went into the promised land and 10 came back with small picture thinking. Well, you say, well, why? How did they have small picture thinking? Because they came back saying, we see only giants and we're like grasshoppers compared to them. But Caleb, however, lived completely. He lived whole. He didn't shrink. He didn't agree that he was a grasshopper or like a grasshopper. He told the people, "We should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it." While the others were paralyzed by fear, Caleb's alignment with God's promise allowed him to show up whole even when the odds looked impossible. So the odds looked impossible for them to go possess the land, but Caleb still said, "We're going to possess the land. I'm not going to be paralyzed by fear." And so big picture thinking makes you unstoppable. Big picture thinking isn't about being deep, it's about being strategic. It's the mindset that helps you grow, understand, see clearly, and live boldly. It's the ability to learn continually, listen intentionally, look expansively, live completely. If you master these four, you can succeed in anything because you're no longer reacting to life. You're leading it. And you're going to, in the days to come, you're going to begin to have a full understanding of what it means to lead your life. I often say this: everybody is a leader. You might not be a leader of a corporation, you might not be a leader, quote unquote, in the community, you might not lead hundreds or thousands of people, but you are leading your life. You are leading you somewhere. Wherever you are today, you're going to be somewhere 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and you're going to be at that place because you led yourself to that place. And so the most important person that you can lead is yourself. So because you're no longer reacting to life, you're leading it, you can succeed in anything. Talk to you soon.